Contentment with life. Contentment in life. Contentment with time. Contentment with age. Contentment with growth. What are all these things? You know, at first I thought it was contentness. And then I looked it up and I said, what is a synonym for contentness? And come to find out it's actually contentment. And so, you know, that was a little funny thing that happened. But to explain what I'm talking about, I'd like to give a little story. Something that happened to me the other day that made me really think about this. Well, I've been thinking about it here and there, but I thought this was a perfect example. So, you know, I like to claim that I'm content with where I am and sort of satisfied, and I think I believe that, and, you know, for the most part, I feel like I embody that. And so I'm gonna tell you a little story about something that happened to me the other day. So basically, I woke up for work and I had to go somewhere for my job. I go to different locations every day. I sort of do different things, but I'm all over the city, you know, doing the work that I do. And one thing that I do is go to new locations a lot because I'm going to new places. I'm working all over the city. You can imagine I do a lot of work all over the place. And so those new locations that I go to, for me, they're fun to go to, and, you know, you get to, you know, just experience new things every day. I highly recommend, if you can find a job that you get to experience something new every day, then do it, you know? And so that's one of the perks of what I do for work. But this morning I woke up and the specific place that I was going to was a movie studio. And so in my head, I say I'm content with life, and then I say something like this, and it's like, well, that seems a bit contradictory. Contradictory. We'll go with that one. I'm Southern. We like to combine our syllables to make the words go by faster. Anyways, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to this movie studio. And so I'm excited, you know what I mean? Like, that's super cool. Like, some people never will be in a movie studio in their entire lives, and I get this opportunity to go to one. And in my head, I'm like, what if I walk in, and as I'm walking in, they're filming something, and, you know, the director's like, no, and they look at me. They say, no, you're perfect. Come over here. Show them how it's done, right? And that's my big break. And then, you know, I act for this director, and he's proud of me, and he looks at me and he says, you know, you did it. Everyone starts clapping. It's a standing ovation. This is a false strawberry. If you ever see these little guys right here, it's a false strawberry, but you can actually eat them. They don't taste very good. But, so I get this big break, and so in my head, that's what I'm thinking is gonna, you know, I'm building this fantasy in my head. And I'm on the way to this movie studio, and I'm like, man, this would be, you know, this is it. Like, and it's fun to, like, fantasize. It's fun to daydream, you know. Who doesn't do it every now and again? You know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't do it all the time. You play out these scenarios in your head, good or bad, about what might come to you, or, you know, try to predict something, or, you know, you envision something, how it goes, and then, you know, moral of the story, we'll get there. So I'm envisioning this, you know, and I'm preparing myself. I'm not really preparing myself, you know, but it's fun to, like, sort of prepare yourself as you're going to do this thing. And so I'm on my way there, and I'm driving there, and I start getting closer, and I see this big, beautiful patch of flowers that I've never seen before, right? And I'm like, wow, that's really beautiful. Like a lot of like these purple and yellow and pink flowers. And I start getting closer, and I see more flowers, and then I get to this area, and I'm like, wait, my stomach's kind of hurting. You know what I mean? I kind of got a number 2. If you ever had one of those before, kind of got a number 2. And so I'm like, oh shucks, I gotta poop. Hopefully I can get there and take a poop. And so I'm getting closer, and then I'm going down the street that the studio is on, and I've seen these beautiful flowers, and that made me really happy. You know what I mean? Seeing those flowers. But going down the street was even cooler. It was like this, I don't know how to, it was almost like an industrial landscape. You could imagine a movie studio doesn't really, especially in the city that I live in, maybe doesn't get as much traction as like a bigger city. So it's normally probably in the middle of nowhere and uses cheap, at least the 2 movie studios I've been to. They're like sort of not prime real estate. I imagine you don't, because you're not always filming a movie, and it's just, for the most part it's vacant. And so I'm going to this studio that's in a kind of, not desolate, but a sort of, it's like really cool. I don't know what about it. I've never been to this area of the city, which is part of the reasons I love my job. It's like, I'm driving down this road to go to this movie studio, and there is these old, I don't know how to describe it, almost industrial looking, like a abandoned industrial, like like the grass is growing through the power plant kind of vibe. Like that's the vibe I was getting from it. I wouldn't say that's exactly the best way to describe it. It was more like big concrete buildings that were pretty much, didn't look completely abandoned, but like there was no cars on the road for miles. And it was just like a very interesting vibe. And in that moment I was like, holy crap, I can film a music video here. And I was like super happy about that. You know what I mean? It was like, I was super happy about being able to film this music video there for one of my upcoming songs. And so like I felt satisfied with the way the morning was going already. You know what I mean? And so I get to the front door, and then I'm like, now it's kind of hit me a little harder. I gotta shit, bruh. I gotta poop for real. I really gotta poop. And so I'm kind of freaking out. Not freaking out, well, I call the person that I'm supposed to be meeting, and they don't answer. And then I call them again, they don't answer. I knock on the door, they don't answer. And so I'm freaking out. I call wherever to try to get in touch. Wind up getting in touch with him. He says he's an hour out. By this time, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm about to go to the gas station and then, like I said, I was kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it took me about a 15-minute drive to get to the nearest bathroom. And so I'm on my way to that bathroom, and let me tell you, I'm like clenching my seat, sweating. You ever had that? You ever had that feeling? You, if I had to go 20 minutes, I wouldn't have made it. But 15 minutes, it was like right on the edge. Like I was sweating. I had to turn the music down, take my seatbelt off. I had to really just lock in so that I didn't shit myself, right? And at 8 in the morning on a Monday morning or Thursday, I think it was. But and so I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I gotta stop. I go to this bathroom, and then I go to the bathroom, and the stalls are both occupied. And then eventually I get there, and I go through and do my business, and then relief. And then I go back, because by this time the guy should be pulling up, and I get there, and he's like, yo, it's not there, it's actually 3 blocks over. And so I go 3 blocks over. I know this might seem kind of irrelevant, but I'm just trying to tell you everything so that you can understand. And so I go 3 blocks over to the right location, and I go in there, and the movie studio is completely empty and there's nothing going on in there. And I do my work and call it a day. And so I think I tell this story because I think it closely relates to this idea of contentment, not contentness. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but you get that, what I'm saying, the idea of being content. I think it relates to this story because I wanted my morning to go a certain way, and I had this vision of how it would go that would make me happy, right? Maybe not the happiest, maybe not, that was like the way to achieve the most happiness, but I just had this sort of vision of what I wanted the day to look like, right? And in that, I sort of allowed myself to build these expectations about the day. And, obviously, those expectations were kind of sold short. But I think where someone that is content is someone that, I'm describing, like being content with my reality and sort of just being okay with the way things went, was like I was on the way to the movie studio and I saw these beautiful flowers, and like that made me happy. You know what I mean? And I found this place that I could shoot this music video. And so I took it as a win. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go back there and shoot this music video over there, and that's going to be super satisfying and super awesome. And these flowers were just so beautiful. Like, I can still imagine them in my head. It was just like an open, big field of purple and yellow flowers. I think there were some pink ones. And then, like, the trees swaying in the wind behind them. And it was just like, wow, this makes me happy. You know what I mean? And so I guess, like, the moral of the story, if you were to take one, would be to don't, maybe not to not set expectations, but just sort of take satisfaction as it comes and be satisfied by everything. Maybe I should have thought about that more before saying it, but, whatever comes to mind. I think I am content, or on my path to like complete contentness, because the things that disappointed me didn't really upset me. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny that just like the whole having a shit thing, I just thought it was like funny to throw in there, because it's like, it's just funny that I had these expectations of becoming a movie star overnight, and then like I'm really just caught and I'm about to shit my pants at 8 in the morning, and like I was just thinking, I thought that was so funny, is like the way it played out, right? Because I had these expectations and they played out differently. But even this, I get to make a video out of it, so it's still a positive thing, and it wasn't even that bad, and made me stronger. That doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. So yeah, from there, we'll continue. I think you get the idea. I don't think it's too hard to understand. But I have some things that I wrote down on my phone that I'm going to reach for right now. My handy dandy phone. So this idea of contentness. And I'm sort of worried about it. Yeah, I don't think I need to reach for my phone. I think I can just come up with this on my own. I'm sort of worried about it. This idea of being content, because does that mean that I'm okay with the reality that I live in? You know what I mean? Does that mean I'll never achieve more than this? Does that mean that I'm okay with not achieving more? In my eyes, sort of, you know what I mean? I think it sort of does. It sort of means that, not that I won't achieve anything more, but maybe so that I won't be striving as hard to, you know what I mean? And my achievements will come, sort of passively as I exist in life. But you ever hear someone that's like ever achieved anything important, it's like, I had to work day in and day out for this. And so it kind of scares me for that reason. It's like, am I just like a loser? You know what I mean? Am I a loser? Should I be satisfied with my life? Should I just let go of, this satisfaction and just sort of convince myself that I'm not okay? And I think the answer to that is obviously no. Like, if I'm okay with where I'm at, embrace it for the time being. You know what I mean? Let's just embrace it. Let's just exist in this plane of contentness, and whenever I'm surely going to be not satisfied again, and whenever I am, take it as it comes. And I think that's what it's really about, is just sort of, as life throws all these curveballs at you, just being able to, I feel like I remember my dad, it's like you have to be a ninja in life, you sort of have to be able to direct and redirect all of the things that come at you. And he said something along those lines. I can't remember the direct quotation. I was maybe 8 years old, but I think that's what being a content is like, is sort of the ability to direct negative energy and sort of turn it into a positive outcome, no matter what, no matter what it is. And maybe that's Stoic, maybe that's Buddhist, maybe that's Christian, maybe that's this. I don't think it needs a label. I think the important part of it is sort of just going with the flow of life and accepting things for how they are, and still being able to be satisfied. I wouldn't say the flowers and stuff and I wouldn't say the flowers and the new music video location sort of made me overjoyous or happy. We get caught in this pursuit of happiness, but I feel like that's kind of like an old thing. You know what I mean? I feel like most people know you shouldn't chase happiness. Happiness is something you can't. Well, maybe, I don't know. I've had this discussion. I've had a debate with one of my friends about achieving happiness and money, if money brings happiness, all of those things. But let's not get too off topic. But I think there's this guy that I saw on YouTube that described what the pursuit of happiness is. He said the image is just dogs chasing some sort of metal machine just out of reach of it. You know what I mean? It's like a never-ending chase, but I feel like that's such an old concept, the idea that materials make you happy. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's a new one that is, I truly believe, is becoming obsolete. You know what I mean? Obviously, people are still super materialistic in a capitalist world, but it sort of feels like if you really truly think that these things will satisfy you, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And I mean, I don't think that's an abstract concept that I want to discuss by any means. I think it's a pretty simple one, and if you haven't gotten there, I think maybe there's I think there's going to be a disconnect to this video in general. So I'm not trying to say that you don't deserve to know whatever I'm saying, but more so there's probably some disconnect that I don't feel like bridging that gap for at this moment. And so as we continue, I'd like to discuss contentness in general. Does being content mean that I'm not happy? Not happy. Does being content mean that I don't have struggles? No, of course not. I still have struggles. I still get anxieties whenever people watch me record these videos. That's why I'm going deeper into the woods right now. I don't want anyone to see me recording this video because it's kind of cringe, but whatever. Not cringe, but you see, I still have these things that get in the way. But I don't think being content means that you're just okay existing in any facet ever. I think it's more so that you're okay with existing in the facets that you find yourself in most often. And if I can avoid facets where I'm not content, then maybe that's the way to live. But then again, you grow through challenging yourself. So it's this is the debacle that's going on in my head, is sort of, if I'm content with life for most of it, you know what I mean? 90%, 80%, whatever the hell, then am I challenging myself enough to grow? Because I've always been a growth-focused person. And I remember whenever I was 20 years old, 18 years old, 21, 22 even, I would obsess over happiness and, contentness and sort of growing and sort of being a, developed person that can go through everyday life without struggling, right? And now I sort of feel like I have it, and it's like, is this it? You know what I mean? Should I resist this? Resistance to contentness. Contentment. Resistance to contentment. Resistance to being okay is sort of what I'm feeling. And so, I'm curious. If you have any ideas on what I'm saying, of course leave it in the comments. I think this is more of an open-ended debate that I'm having with myself live, and also with you guys if you have any input. So yeah, I feel like I used to look at my parents and I'd say, what the hell? That's all? You're alright with that? You're okay with, being a mom and, working your 9 to 5 and just, you're okay with that? And that's how you want to be? And I used to be like, oh, I'm going to do so much more. I'm going to be so much more, successful, or I'm going to achieve more, like materialistically and materialistically. But now I feel like I'm starting to realize that everyone sort of hits a point in their life, maybe not where they're content, but where they're okay enough. And am I just at that point? Am I just okay enough with what I have, and there is no need for more? Is that not contentness? Is it, if I thought I wanted more, would I not go out and try to achieve it? I would. And where does this contentness come from? Is it from being let down after so many years? You know what I mean? I think it more so comes from putting intention into happiness and not letting materialistic things validate me, and sort of being grateful. And maybe I'm just saying that because that's the best way to describe what I have, you know what I mean, is the best way to describe it. But maybe that's what it is. And if it was anything other than that, would it be an issue? Would it be an issue if I was happy because I didn't feel like I could achieve more? And that's the thing, is I still have goals. My main goal in life is to find a facet of art that satisfies my soul and allows me to fully express everything about myself through it, and just I want to be an artist, you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean selling art, and that doesn't mean being really good, you know what I mean? To me, it just means being able to express what I feel onto pen and paper, or being able to express what I feel into whatever medium I am working with. And so maybe I need to write that down, because I think that's beautiful. And I have a little quote. Let's see if I missed anything, because obviously I'm gonna talk a little more. I haven't opened the notes app yet, so yeah. Yeah, I think I could talk more about how I was unsatisfied whenever I was younger, which is I would obsess, not just oh, what am I gonna do with my life? I mean, maybe everyone does this, and that's the thing. Maybe I'm just experiencing life, but I would obsess over just figuring this all out. I wanted to write books, and I tried writing books. I wanted to, mosquito. Supposedly you're not supposed to smack mosquitoes because if you do, oh my god, there's a lot. I need to get out of here. Oh! I wanted to write books. I wanted to be a philosopher, and I told myself, well, I can't write a philosophy book until I'm at least 30 years old, because who wants to hear a 22-year-old that feels like they know everything about life? I mean, that's kind of base, no? Like, we think we have it all figured out, and then we think we're like more aware than our elders, and then I think you get to a certain part of life and you realize you don't know anything, and you never will. And does everyone get to that moment, you know what I mean? Or is it just people that care about it? Do you end up with the same result, which is going through life and accepting your reality? Everyone does it at some point. They accept who they are, what they're doing, what their plans are, and just, you know, either lock in, have a few kids, and call it a day, or sort of, I don't know. I hope this isn't all over the place. It's been a while since I made a video, so it's my video. You never came here for clarity, did you? You came here for affirmation that you are doing the right thing, and you are. You will figure it out. Everyone does. Oh wait, that's kind of tough. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it gets more complicated than that. I don't know. I think part of me is scared that this is all. I mean, for the longest, I couldn't keep a job for whatever, like in more than a year. But now I've been in my job for 2 years, you know, whoop whoop. But if that sort of makes sense, I know this is a lot of blank noise and it's probably understimulating, but I needed this. So thank you for staying here. If you stayed here, yeah. I wasn't happy with anything, and now I just feel totally satisfied. And this is the thing, is like, even if my goal was to be unsatisfied again and want more and achieve more, I don't think my brain, for whatever reason, could convince myself that what I'm doing isn't the right thing. And I don't think what I'm doing is the... Frick, those skeeters got me. But I don't think what I'm doing is wrong or right, but I think I'm just existing in the facet of life that I'm existing in, and I enjoy it. And I take my small wins wherever I want, and I try to make my art, and I practice my art, and I practice my expression, and that's what I'm doing right now. And like, it's not pretty, it's not magical, it is what it is, and that's just the way I'm living right now. This might sound a little manic, but like, I swear, like, I'm making completely rational decisions, and like, I feel so clear on everything, but at the same time, there's not a lot of like contemplation. There's not a lot to be clear about. It's just like pure existing. And I'm curious, does everyone get to this moment in their life? Is this just the way it is? Is this why we have 8 billion people that go through life every day and sort of don't question anything about it and just exist? I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I think if you understood where my mind was before, you might look at me and be proud of me. But at the same time, I was always supposed to be here, just like everyone else. Maybe it took me a little bit longer to get there. Does that mean that I don't want to do things that other people want to do? I still want to travel. I would be unsatisfied if I don't go to China at least once. And see other things and go on a cruise and, you know, I have my goals with my family, and it's just sort of, they're all on their way, and it's like I sort of just have to relax and get there. You know what I mean? No amount of worrying about it will get me there faster. So maybe that's what it is. I'm more precise than I was when I was younger. I'm more intentional. That's a big part of it. Being intentional. You have to be intentional, or you'll get confused. Anyways, now that this is a 30-minute video and we're sort of all over the place, I think I want to leave y'all off with one quote, which I wrote down, which this is going to go down in the history books forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and you'll remember this forever because it is beautiful, and it is, I have everything I'll ever own. And what do I mean by that? I mean, the truth is, satisfaction comes from within. The only thing you'll ever own is your mind, the way you think about things, and your perception. That is all you'll ever own. So, if you can do your best to be satisfied with those things, and satisfied with life through those things, then I think you'll be doing good for yourself and good for the people around you. Blaney Talks out.